Hey, welcome back everyone. It's day 39. I'm Henry. You're watching my channel, Henry's Millions. Today we're talking about your favorite recent subject, self-forgiveness. We made a few videos about that already, and I hope you've watched them. One on forgiveness and the one after on self-forgiveness. We're becoming much more adept at the topic because most of us have something we really want to forgive ourselves for. We're human, right? We are utterly fallible. There's a lot of us, not us, but there's a lot of people out there that are totally oblivious. They don't think they've made any mistakes. When sometimes those mistakes are just, whoa, they're huge. They've hurt and wronged and harmed. They just don't see it or they don't care. I'm sure they're not watching this video, but you are. So you have some very redeeming qualities. That's a very important point. If you're watching this video, you've got some morals in you. You're feeling bad. And that's a great start. I like you. And I'm deciding to talk about this topic, so, I can't be all that bad. All right. I have some thoughts, and I was going over a document that I want to bring to your attention. I think it's very helpful. I was thinking much of the suffering that we experience don't come from the things that happened themselves, the events, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. It's the personal narrative, right? And usually these narratives should kind of give us a sense of peace and harmony, right? We have these stories, we narrate our entire life and everyone's involvement around us in it and how. So we use these stories, but sometimes they run amok, right? Because when we do something wrong or harm someone, we tell ourselves different stories and we just make it worse. So that's an important thing to keep in mind here, is the stories that you're telling yourself. We're obviously not gonna let ourselves and each other off the hook that easy. That's not what you're gonna get in this video. It's not that easy. There's a price to pay for what you've done. How dare you? We are wired to experience and respond to negative emotions much more intensely than positive ones, and quickly. That's called negativity bias. That's a cognitive distortion. Negativity bias, it causes us to recall our painful experiences and our transgressions against others more vividly than positive ones. You could have done a lot of good things in your life, helped a lot of people, or maybe not a lot, but helped some people who've done some good, or at least chosen not to do bad. But we don't remember those. What we remember are the few bad ones in between. So we focus on that. That's the negative information. It's a negativity bias. Look it up. It's interesting. So we overlook the good. We punish ourselves endlessly for past mistakes. Some punishment is good, because that's what brings us here today. If you're looking up this video, all the pain you've been feeling up until now. So that is good. It's good. It shows that there's some goodness in you. So we may have caused real harm to ourselves and others. We have to treat ourselves, though, with the same care and responsibility that we would offer another person. Sometimes we treat other people a lot better than we treat ourselves. So I was thinking that we have to make and recognize this distinction between I and me. Your I is my conscious self. When you say I, it's your conscious self. And me is the self that you're caring for. I want you to look at it this way. Me is the self that you're caring for. So I care for me. I care about me. And so that helps us kind of put things in perspective a little bit. So you're acknowledging this ongoing self-punishment. But to continue that forever just perpetuates the suffering and trauma. And I don't know that it needs to continue forever. I don't think it does. Rarely, if ever, does it. And if it does, then everybody in the world should be in that same situation, right? Doesn't make sense. And the interesting thing is, if your self could speak to you, that'd be really interesting. I'm not talking about like the inner dialogue you have on day to day, but if the me you're caring for can speak with you, it'd be like, I was thinking about why do you continue to punish me forever and ignore the good within me? Or why can't you give me a fair chance here? Let's lay out the facts. Let's really look at this objectively, and let's balance things. Let's balance the good with the bad. Maybe I get time off for good behavior, right? Or maybe what I did wasn't that bad. Self-forgiveness, that's what we're talking about today, right? It's the willingness to let go of self-resentment after acknowledging the wrongdoing and being compassionate and generous and loving with ourselves. You have to believe that you deserve that, even if what you did is really bad, or what we did. I'm not blaming you for anything. I don't even know you. But you are my subscriber, so I have a certain amount of liking and regard for you. So I appreciate your subscription. So we need to accept responsibility for the harm that we've caused, and we need to express remorse while reducing shame. We've talked about that before, right? We need to express the remorse while reducing the shame. Because remember, there's shame and guilt, right? So remorse, feeling bad for what we've done. And accepting responsibility, we're going to talk more about that. And then, where as much as possible, we have to engage in reparative actions and making recommitting to our core values. Now, sometimes it's possible to repair things with others, third parties. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. When there's reparation with people that have been harmed, then self-forgiveness kind of happens. But when it's not feasible, it's not possible to make reparations with others that have been harmed. That's the difficulty there. So we're looking for self-forgiveness without that third party or third parties that have been harmed or wronged, extending forgiveness. But we have to do it nonetheless. So we talked responsibility, remorse, reparations, and we do need to come out of this with a renewed sense of self-respect, compassion, and acceptance, self-acceptance, self-respect, self-acceptance. All right. How do we do that, Henry? Seems like it's easier said than done. I was reading a great document here I found online. It's by the Frontiers in Psychology by a Michele J. DeMarco. It's called The Six-Fold Path to Self-Forgiveness. Whew, this is comprehensive. These research, I don't know what she does, but let's see what she does. I don't know. But they really consulted with and referenced almost every source of literature out there on self-forgiveness. Very thorough document. 6 steps to self-forgiveness. Well, I'm not going to be going through the final 3 in this video. It'd be the first 3, and they coincide. They happen to coincide, these steps, with what I've already wanted to teach you, because they are common sense. But the added treatment and thinking that this document contributed was immensely thought-provoking. So 3 steps. I'm going to give you 3 steps today. And they're going to make sense. It's common sense, but we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about them for a little bit. Number 1, you have to accept responsibility. Number 2, well, I don't know if I should continue. Let's go in turn, accepting responsibility. And then we'll get to the other 2 soon. So it requires honestly recognizing our wrongdoing and acknowledging the different choices that could have been made. What could I have done? And what should I have done? Ooh, that's a little tough one there. But what could I have done? What should I have done? We have to really go back and resurface those facts. That must be done. There's a lot that kind of disappears into this cloud in our mind. I talked about that before. We have to go back and reassess the facts. And I remember even Jordan Peterson had a short clip about that, about, what is it, giving yourself the best defense possible, right? After you reassess the facts, make the best defense possible for yourself. So, and we also want to go beyond pseudo self-forgiveness. I spoke about that in my last video on self-forgiveness. Pseudo self-forgiveness, we need to avoid certain things which involve rationalizing, denying, condoning things. You know, when we are dealing with self-forgiveness, there is no third party, someone helping us through this. And so it's easier for us to rationalize things. Oh, they deserved it. Oh, they also did this wrong or that wrong. Or look at the circumstances under which I was operating. Or I had no better choice or no better option. Avoid that. We have to be brutally honest without being way too vicious with ourselves, right? Balance, mean. I talked about that in another video. Just finding the balance in things. Aristotle talked about that, this mean. The balance is what? Between being too vicious with ourselves and being the other opposite, which is what they call pseudo self-forgiveness, which is denying, condoning, rationalizing. Don't want to do that because you're not going to accomplish anything here. We need to be balanced, honest, thoughtful, objective, at the same time not being overly harsh and vicious with ourselves. Okay, make a detailed account of the wrongdoing, of the transgression, and its impact it's had on others and yourself. What impact did it have on others? And maybe think about it also from their perspective, because that's really a clarifying part of this experience is put yourself in other people's shoes that were affected. Because a lot of the time you may be blaming them too, or for what you've done or their part in it. But put yourself in other people's shoes. I don't know what you could be dealing with here. The wrongs are many and varied. It's amazing how much wrong we can do, but so do that. So we need to be honest with this approach, transparent in this self-examination. Don't exaggerate and don't condemn yourself. Okay, so observing thoughts without judgment, recalling events objectively. All right, so that's accepting responsibility. Here's what happened in detail. Here's all the facts. Here's all the people that were affected. And I accept responsibility for X, Y, and Z for these things. What could I have done differently? There's always options. There's always options. I know that people say, well, he did the best he could with what he had, or I made the best decision with the options I had at the time. We hear that a lot. And there's some truth to that. But there's always other options, other choices that were at your disposal. And you didn't make them because you possibly were not in the right state of mind. There's a spiritual speaker online, world famous, and he refers to it, I get cat's out of the bag, it's a he. People are unconscious. He says people are unconscious, which is why they act like this. I really dislike that reference and that terminology because it kind of puts the speaker on a pedestal. No, we make mistakes because we're not in the right state of mind, because we're not wise as maybe we're a little wiser today. We weren't wise. We're a little bit ignorant. We didn't, we're not in the right state of mind. You could even go to so far as say I was effed up, right? I mean, you could, right? You get the point here. But to say, use the word consciousness, he was unconscious. That's ridiculous. I don't like this terminology. Got some personal gripes to air out here. The world of YouTube. All right, accept responsibility. So, hashed out everything. You've accepted responsibility. I'm responsible for causing much of, or most of, or all of this problem here that's been afflicting me, which is why I'm looking for self-forgiveness, and it hurts like hell. I accept responsibility. I'm responsible for it. I caused the damn thing. All right, the second step, feeling remorse. Now, I know it seems weird to separate these out, but maybe you don't need to look at it as like a logical progression. Maybe there's a hodgepodge and it happens all at once, but allows us to talk about it together, right? So, feeling remorse. So it's engaging with the pain that you're feeling and allowing it to be felt. Remember, pain, we talked about this before. Pain should always be felt. Pain should always be felt. Whether it's heartbreak pain, or whether pain of loss, or pain of whatever. You got to sit with it. No amount of potato chips is going to help you fix that pain. So we need to feel it. We need to describe it. Describe it without distortion. Again, I'm giving this talk today with some help from this 6-fold path to self-forgiveness by Michele DeMarco. I think it's a great document. You can look it up online. It's a big read though. It's like 14 pages and a lot of referencing. And so, if you care to, but remorse, describing it with without distortion and directly acknowledging it and feeling the pain. So you got negative feelings like guilt, shame, anger. Shame is a big one. Self-forgiveness, that's a big one. Guilt, anger. And then they lead to having negative beliefs about yourself, right? So, I did this. How could I do that? I'm someone that did that, was capable of doing that. I ruined things. I messed things up. Blah, 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 blah. And then it leads to other beliefs or statements you have about yourself, probably back in your mind somewhere, about your worthiness, your being good enough or being bad or whatnot. So we need to sit with these feelings. it's important through this process of self-forgiveness. The third step, and they could be happening at the same time, okay? It's just restoring trust, restoring trust. So we want to end this internal suffering, this torment and anguish. We need to make sense of these painful experiences. So how do we do that? We need to make meaning, interpret and organize the things, these events, the things that transpire in our lives, the relationships, our sense of self. We need to make meaning of all this, right? You're already doing that. You already have a narrative of your life and the things that happen in your life and the people involved in it. You already have a narrative. We need to make meaning of this, meaning in a way that empowers us and helps us, not as opposed, to the opposite of that. In this document, Sixfold Path to Self-Forgiveness, she's referencing a lot of authors, very thorough examination, and they discuss 2 levels of meaning. I thought it was very interesting. So there's a global level of meaning, and there's a situational level of meaning. Very important, I thought. Global meaning, so our core beliefs and worldview, core beliefs about ourselves in the world and others, and the worldview. Like, for example, such as life being fair or unfair, like life is inherently just or unjust, equitable, inequitable. This world is fair, this world's unfair, right? And people are either all are good, people are evil, people are good and evil. These are core beliefs and worldview and maybe even goals. And then life being random or determined, predetermined, right? So there's a global meaning, and then there's a situational meaning, which is how we interpret specific events or react to situations based on these beliefs. So I thought, okay, how can I make more sense of this situational meaning? Well, for example, if I believe that all people, which is I don't, but if I believe that all people are evil, then I probably wouldn't feel too bad about what I did, even though I know it's wrong. You see what I'm saying? So this global meanings affect your situational meaning. The effect is everything. It's all it's huge. Huge. You know who says that? He happens to be on the news every day. Okay, so global meaning, situational meaning. We're restoring trust. This is the third step. We want to make sense of things, meaning making. So we're going to look at our global meaning. This is internal to you, right? So these are the beliefs, goals, and worldview that you have internally. And your situational meaning, how you're interpreting these events or reacting to these situations. So sometimes they need to be reconsidered or readjusted, okay? Think about that. Sit with that for a while. We need to regain the trust and the coherence we have with ourselves and the world. All right, some final points here on this one. So again, from the document, the great document here, Frontiers in Psychology, Michele DeMarco, Sixfold Path to Self-Forgiveness. It's the third time I mention it. I think it's useful. It's a lot of, so anyway, and the self-deception. So how do we do that? We right-size the responsibility. We don't deny and we don't exaggerate our role. Remember the balance, the mean I'm telling you about. Right-sizing the responsibility. So we're not denying our culpability, our involvement, our responsibility. At the same time, we're not exaggerating our role, okay? We need to have an accurate, reality-based view of things that transpired. So what were the circumstances? What were the choices that you thought you had? And today, you probably could think up a few more choices. And then reflecting on the limits and extent of your responsibility. There are limits and extents to your responsibility. And effects of core wounds and the barriers created by your beliefs. Some things to reflect on. You don't have to reflect on all of them. Just take what makes sense to you and the situation that you're in and why you need to forgive yourself. Somebody wrote a book about not how we shouldn't be able to forgive ourselves because a third party must be involved. Like I forgot what the book is called. So she said that we shouldn't be able to forgive ourselves because forgiveness requires another person to forgive us, the people that were affected. But luckily for you and me and everybody that will watch this video in the future, hopefully millions of people on YouTube, self-forgiveness is widely accepted as a necessary, useful, beneficial activity, condition, state, whatever it is. Self-forgiveness is good. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't make reparations. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be accountable. Of course we need to be accountable. We need to hold ourselves accountable. And society holds each other accountable to the extent that things are known. But we should be able to forgive ourselves. So we need to, just a few final points here. We have to accept ourself, yourself, as fallible yet inherently worthy. You are worthy. And especially since I know you're watching this video, you're not ignoring this or denying this. Other people could be, but you're not. So you are worthy. We need you. Honoring both the wrongness of the act and the potential for goodness that you have within you, right? Think about it. You have potential to do good. That's what we need. So we don't want to downplay or forget the wrong, but we do need to honor the potential for goodness that you have in you, okay? And the painful memories that you have should be integrated into your life story. We want to transform them. Right? Like we want to learn from them. And Jordan Peterson, I don't know, I'm mentioning people, but so Jordan Peterson had that short video clip where he says, you know, after we make an honest account in defense of ourselves for what happened, we need to we need to learn from that so that we would never repeat that. We would do things differently in the future. Okay, it makes a lot of sense, obviously. So if you see the wrong and you know the right, based on your values and beliefs and morals, then obviously, if you were faced with the same circumstances, you would behave differently. And that's what we want. We need that. All right. Will I make another video on self-forgiveness? It's a possibility there may be one more. If you would like one more, there are a few more steps here. I haven't covered all the steps in this 6-step process. There's 3 more steps. I think they are interesting. Are they crucial? Probably not crucial. Look, if there was reconciliation with the third parties, then this whole thing would be a wash. I mean, you'd be good. But absent that, and we're dealing with self-forgiveness, maybe these 3 additional steps would be useful. If you want that, if you want me to continue, please leave a comment. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. This really helps me. It really helps. And it motivates me to continue to do more videos like this. All right, so that's it for today. And I appreciate you watching and wanting to forgive yourself And I'll see you on the next installment. Stay tuned. Take care. Every time. Every time.